watching Fandoms.
And welcome to Fandoms, a show from every fan's point of view. I am Tony, your host. Will Wilkins will be on with me in a minute. We just want to go ahead and get started. First of all, welcome and thank you for being with us. This has been a crazy week with a lot of things going on, and I am going to do my best to be a lot more direct and like connected with you guys today because my hands are off the wheel. The guy in the chair, our mastermind, Rich, is back producing us and taking care of everything. So I am just going to be focused on you guys and, talking crap with Will. But before we get started, I want to just remind you of a couple things. If you are watching us and you don't know about Nerd Initiative, I want you to be able to check out our website, check out nerdinitiative.com. You can also go here and you go to the contact us page. If you would like to be part of our newsletter, newsletter is coming out next week, telling you about the stuff that's coming up, the different types of news, the different types of reviews that are coming out, and as well as different shows and different programming that we have here on the Nerd Initiative channel. If you are watching through YouTube, if you're watching from Twitter, we'd love to have you come over and check out YouTube as well. Other things to make sure you're watching out for, along with the Nerd Initiative website, make sure you're checking out, if you're a comic book fan, every Wednesday, it's well, let's start with Tuesday. You were right, Rich. I'm sorry. Every Tuesday we have Turn a Page with the comic bullpen for Nerd Initiative. They're talking about different stories. They are also doing reviews. So be sure to check them out. They are every Tuesday night, and you can follow them on the QR code there. Then for Wednesdays, if you want to know about what's going on with comic book news and reviews, the Nerd Initiative team is busy all week getting ready for New Comic Book Day. And as well, and you don't have to go anywhere with this, Ken, but you can also check out earlier in the week with Nerd Initiative because our guy loves to do a top 10 most anticipated comics. And so you can always look out for that as well. But if you want to know what's going on with the comics, follow this code here. And then also every Thursday, if you are a professional wrestling fan, you like WWE, AEW, everything that's out there, be sure to check out Wrestling Night Live. There's a 2-hour program that happened just last evening, yesterday, just talking about WrestleMania. It's electric, a lot of excitement. And if you're not a professional wrestling fan, I've said this before, just watch the show. And if you thought about getting into it, they'll convince you to do so. And then of course you've got Fandoms here. One of the things that we are contractually obligated to do to keep the lights on is to promote our merchandise. And so please check out our merch store. You'll find jerseys, you'll find sweatshirts, you'll find t-shirts, cups, and hats and everything else. In fact, we love the hats. They are very comfortable and they are very well done. I actually got this off of the store there. So be sure to check that out. Did I miss anything, Rich? Is there anything else that needs to pop up? I think we're good. All right. So before we get started, before I bring Will on, let's go ahead and have Pooja's picks.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another segment of Pooja's Picks. My name is Pooja and I'm here to bring you the latest in movie news. Let's take a look at all of my picks for the week. For its 20th anniversary, one of the greatest sequels of all time is back in theaters for a limited time. Shrek 2 gave audiences a look into a whole different side of the fairy tale world, introducing iconic characters like Puss in Boots, Fairy Godmother, and Prince Charming, while also serving one of the best musical montage numbers to ever grace the screen. Whether you're reliving your childhood days from 2004 or experiencing it for the first time, be sure to check out Shrek 2 on the big screen. See you there. Ballet and vampires mesh together in Abigail, the latest horror film that serves as a reimagining of the 1936 film Dracula's Daughter. The film centers around a group of kidnappers who capture a young girl named Abigail, the daughter of a wealthy and powerful figure whom they hold for ransom. But after finding safety in a secluded mansion, they soon realize that Abigail is not as helpless as she seems, and that they are trapped with her as she wreaks havoc throughout the night. The film has what looks to be a fun ensemble, from Melissa Barrera and Dan Stevens to Catherine Newton, the late Angus Cloud, and Giancarlo Esposito, alongside Alicia Ware as the titular character. There's no denying how absolutely fun this looks, and I cannot wait to check it out. It's time to step back into the World War II era and punch some bad guys in Guy Ritchie's The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. The film is very loosely based on the real-life events of Operation Postmaster, a British organization created in 1940 that involves espionage and the sabotage of Nazi occupation in Europe. The film stars Henry Cavill, Isa Gonzalez, Alan Ritchson, Henry Golding, Alex Pettyfer, Carrie Elwes, and so many more in this action-packed historical comedy film. If there's one thing that I can say about this, it's that I think we need Henry Cavill in more comedic roles than dramatic ones, because this looks like he's having the absolute time of his life. The anime movie event of the year is here, as we are reunited with our favorite family of secrets in Spy Family Code White. The film continues the events of the anime's second season, but this time, Lloyd receives an order that he is to be replaced in Operation Strix, compelling him to spend more time with Anya and Yor, his fake daughter and wife, and taking a vacation with them. Unfortunately, with the three of them leading double lives, their efforts to take time off lead to a chain of events that could threaten world peace. Will this spy family save the day, or better yet, save the world? Be sure to find out by watching the film as it hits theaters next week. Well, that's all that we have for this week. Be sure to tune into the next episode of Fandoms for another segment of Pooja's Picks, but until then, back to the show.
I cannot believe that Shrek is coming back. And with me, let me go ahead and just say that now. We have that Will Wilkins from Netheads, which I seem to be a mainstay on a little bit more so now.
Well, I started inviting you more as I started showing up here more.
Well, Will has been very gracious to have me on Netheads the night before a fandom. So if you're on here and you like us talking together, just occasionally check out Netheads on YouTube, or you can follow the Patreon, and then you can hear us talking crap to each other beforehand. Thank you, Will. I was meaning to tell you not to bring that on this challenge on the show. So Will has some fun with his soundboard and different things. But yeah, welcome, Will.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Which, by the way, shout out to the other Netheads co-host, Trent Hunsaker, who is the designer of the Pew Pew t-shirt that I'm wearing. One of my favorite t-shirts that I own. So much so that regrettably, when his comic book shop shut down, he sent me like 3 or 4 more in my size. He's just like, here, man. Awesome. So, but it's definitely a design that I think I want to remarket.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, listen, the comic book shop might be closed, but that's definitely something I would like, a shirt like that. So
I'd probably still keep the comic shop information, because it is Death Ray Comics is on the back, and I'd almost include that too, because isn't that like a thing? Aren't like vintage T-shirts a thing?
Yeah,
and like yeah. I think it'd be cool. Anyway, sorry, I'm not here shucking wares, man. I'm here to talk about cool entertainment stuff. Look, Tony, I don't mean to derail and I don't mean to take away your show, but I am both happy and sad by something I just read, which is that Paramount Plus just announced that Strange New Worlds, which is an amazing Star Trek show, has been renewed for season 4, and that
you're sad about it being renewed.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, the previously announced 5th season of Lower Decks is going to be the last. So that's a bit of a bummer, because again, a really enjoyable Star Trek show, even though it's animated.
I've heard a lot of things about it. I've honestly never gotten into. I'm discovering that unless it's something that I've like grown up with, I catch everything as it's like gotten older. Like, I'm just into Doctor Who. I'm in the new Doctor Who season 2. Mind you, it's because everybody that was on the show a couple weeks ago did their best to kind of really convince me. And I will tell you, the big ploy for me, and this is what they could have, someone could have said this earlier. If you like Smallville, you'll like Doctor Who, because it's very much that kind of thing. It's the zany, like I always thought it was like for me, Smallville was like the Scooby-Doo, the Mystery Machine, everybody together, like solving the crimes of what superpowered being that's caused by Kryptonian, matter is it this week, that kind of thing.
Look, it's a show also, by the way, that whole monster of the week thing being driven by, for the longest time, just straight up referred to as green meteor rocks. You know what I mean? It was when the show, in my opinion, it got very long in the tooth. And as it did, it got like more and more absurd. But early on, like at least the first 4 seasons of Smallville, very enjoyable. Can I tell you a fun story that is just one of the weirdest coincidences I've ever encountered?
What's that?
The production company behind Smallville, right? You see it every single time at the end with the smashing of the Inkwell, which is
asked me the name. I know it off the top
Miller
of my head.
Goff. Okay,
Yeah.
Miller Goff, not Go, but Goff. Okay, and for the longest time, I was like, wait a second. You know what? There's no way. Way long ago in my career, one of my first professional jobs, I worked at a video conference center, and we had a person that was working in the LA market that was attempting to basically sell services. So attempt to contact big businesses that are located with multiple places all over the country, try and get them to come to these centers to have meetings face to face. And that guy's name was Al. I think it was Al Goff. I don't think the name's off. I think we're correct. And for the longest time, when I finally saw that Miller Goff was him, at the time I went down to Los Angeles to do some work on the studio, we ended up staying in his apartment. I slept on his floor in a sleeping bag. And one of the weirdest and coolest things I thought was that he had just come from New York as a film student, I think. And he had all these scripts from all these films that he loved just all over his room.
Oh, that's cool.
20 years later, once I realized Al Goff is on Twitter, I said, hey, I figure why not shout him out? I'm like, hey, is it at all possible that I slept on your apartment living room in a sleeping bag when we were down maintaining a video conference center? So I was very specific. And he actually replied and said, that sounds about right. So oddly enough, I slept on the floor of one of the creators of Smallville before he was one of the creators of Smallville.
It's a small world, or at least for you it is.
Claim to fame, really.
No, that's cool. Listen, I'm a big Smallville fan, mind you. Some interesting things happen to some of the actors and whatnot, but that's what I took from the whole. I told you that story, right? I told you the story.
No,
like I met Allison Mack.
Oh yes,
at a convention. Got a picture, posted it on Instagram, and then I was showing it to somebody at work, and they're like, she runs a cult, right? And I'm like, excuse me, what? And then that's when I found out about Nexium and everything else. And that picture came off of my Instagram account very quickly. And then, the autographed picture that she gave me with like congratulating me on just having my kid went away too. So
let's just tuck that one away.
Yeah.
Maybe we can reflect on that later, because that is the type of interesting parable that you're able to share with, like, let's say as your son grows up into adulthood and he himself like gets a spouse, he'd be like, hey, you've been watching crime documentaries on the Digiviz, huh? Because it's the future and you're watching TV. Then you could say,
honestly,
yeah,
good. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, you could be like, hey, how you've been watching that crime drama series about that thing? Believe it or not, I have a signed picture.
Well, I still have it. It's in my Smallville collectible thing, the complete series. But what was funny was my wife, we had just had our kid, so she was home. He was born in February, so it was in May. It was like 3 months. So she's still home with him. I'm at the convention, and I'm in line, and I noticed something very strange. All of the people that were in line, it was all men. There's no women. First red flag, should have been there. And then The only way it could have been worse, thinking back on it now, is like I remember walking up to her, talking to her. I'm like, "Hey, my wife really enjoys you on the show. Like, really, she's a big fan." Could you imagine she'd be like, "Oh, does she want to join a club?" It's like,
well, we have a spiritual support group that's people helping people, and I think the one that ended up playing, I think Lana Lane, right? That actress. She apparently did attend a few things, and she was just like, "Nah,
she was trying to get her to join." Yes.
Yeah, but saying it was like a self-help thing, though. Anyway, let's not dwell on that, shall we?
Yeah, let's get out of the creepy stuff. Like, we could do that.
Strange New Worlds renewal.
That's like
Great.
a TikTok live conversation to have.
Yeah, there you go. Is it?
Yes. So let's go ahead and just talk. One of the things that I mentioned in the notes for the show before, and you can kind of see on the splash, that was the thumbnail for the show. Not this background. This background is just amazing, and I need to like update it so it correlates with what we're doing, because I think this needs to be the background all the time. I absolutely love this. But this last week was CinemaCon. And with CinemaCon, you have, if anybody doesn't know about this, it's basically a convention in Las Vegas that's covering our face. And what it does is, you know what? You could actually do that, couldn't you? Like,
yeah, I can wear the con as glasses.
But it's a convention in Las Vegas. All of the studios come out and they basically talk about the different movies and things that they're doing. So like Paramount had a panel, which is part of, I'm guessing, where some of the announcement came out with Paramount. Well, no, Paramount Plus would have been done something separately. Paramount, Universal, Sony, Disney. And so we had some announcements that came out, and they were teasers, especially with Marvel and stuff like that, because, they're going to want to do more with D23 this year. But we had some things, and now, Will, we didn't talk about this yesterday at all. But I remember I think Transformers was mentioned. Did you know that, first of all, they're doing another animated movie, but they're not bringing back the original cast? And with the cast, like Chris Hemsworth is going to be.
Yeah, that part I knew about. I knew there was something about Chris Hemsworth, Optimus Prime in Transformers or something along those
So there's
lines.
a number of people. I think Scarlett Johansson's going to also be in it, and there's going to be a number of people. Basically, it's going to be the Avengers of Autobots. But aside from that, they're also doing a live action. And I don't know, did you watch the last live action Transformer film?
I have not seen a Transformers film since the original Transformers. I don't think I've seen any one of the subsequent movies.
Can I spoil that movie for you?
Which one?
The was it the Rise of the Beast? Whatever. The one
okay. The one that was just in theaters.
Yes, the one that was just in theaters last year. It was last
year,
and
I'm sure it's been streaming all over Paramount Plus, and I've completely ignored it.
Which you can get. That's where I watched it. We didn't go to the theaters for it. But in the movie, it's basically a reboot, a soft reboot. It goes back in the 90s, and at the end of the film, if you go back and you watch the end, they do the whole end credit scene, like loop the hook. The guy who is the character who plays, he's working with the Autobots. He's the human that they get involved. He gets pulled into a clandestine office and basically is invited to join a clandestine military group, which is G.I. Joe.
Oh,
and
what a cool little connection.
The next live action movie is going to be, well, that's the cartoon, but the next live action movie is going to be Transformers and G.I. Joe's crossing over. It's going to actually be the two together. And so all I have to say is, now what we need is Jurassic Park and Fast and Furious. Like, that's the next one we should have. That I'm just saying.
Give me dinosaurs and give me fast cars.
Exactly.
I'm there for it. I know I probably still won't watch it. I don't know.
But it seemed interesting. There are also some other things that were mentioned. Moana 2 for Disney is going to be coming out. And they showed that, and it they had a little bit of a preview there. There was also a Pixar film about a wild robot that was also shown. I was trying to think what else with the other things. I'm not going off notes. This is all from what I've been listening and watching. So, I apologize, but we'll just go ahead and skip all that and go to go to really what's important. And that's, of course, Kevin Feige got on stage and was able to talk about some stuff with Marvel. And one of the things he talked about was, of course, the Thunderbolts. We've been talking about the Thunderbolts title and the asterisk. And he
what
said,
we're gonna say about that for now. It's like,
and
dude,
it is the title, and it has something to do with the movie, but they're not going to disclose what it is. So it's of course you got to go watch the film to see what it is.
The asterisk is like partway through the movie, it just pops up a little thing. Haha, this is Avengers, whatever. No, I'm kidding.
Yes. And then, of course, they did show some of Deadpool, and we talked about it yesterday, that Wolverine breaks the fourth wall in this preview because the cell phone's ringing and he goes cursing out everything. But there was something that you had mentioned to me about Kevin Feige and his announcement with Deadpool. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, it was a little shocking because, Kevin Feige has been very vanilla for years, okay? And like when I've had the opportunity to either see recordings or be in the room when he's doing a presentation, it's all very well balanced. It's very PG at most, all right? And when he announced basically the excitement of Deadpool and Wolverine being their first R-rated film, he dropped not one, not two, but at least 3 F-bombs, possibly 4 into the intro for it. So we got like Kevin Feige after dark. It was neat.
And he said that he could say it because Deadpool is rated R. So if Deadpool can say it, he can say it.
I like derailing things clearly. Not that I want to get off this topic because I want to come back to it. But one of the things that I have completely glossed over and I haven't been very exposed to information-wise, because I'm telling you right now, Kevin Feige's speech popped up not once, not twice, but at least 3 times for me last night. But in all cases, I haven't kind of watched it because the first time I sent it to you while I was trying to watch it, and then I'm like, I made the mistake of going, I just want to skip to the Deadpool and Wolverine stuff. So have you watched one of the presentations or one of the videos, and what do they talk about for Captain America 4?
So I've kind of not been looking at it.
Okay.
But yeah, I did see some information. I read about it. So we've got Thunderbolt Ross, that is president of the United States, complimenting him and saying that he wants to bring the Avengers back. And of course, Sam asked the question, what happens when we do or what happens if it's something that you don't want us to do? Or, is there going to be a problem there? And of course we do have him and his counterpart Torres doing, being Falcon. But I haven't heard what he had to say about it.
Yeah. Okay. Neither have I. I almost kind of want to stay a little unspoiled, but somehow I think I did hear something. Do you want me to tell you what I heard?
Are you talking about the only villain that we see in the film?
No. But if you know that.
Well, it's not so much a villain, but supposedly there's this event that's going on, and Isaiah Bradley that we met in Falcon and the Winter Soldier has in some case been mind controlled and starts shooting out the place.
Oh, that's right. He and Bucky get triggered. That's it. So, but what was the thing I heard? No, it was that. Never mind. Yep, we're on the same page. We're completely on the same page. Well, except that there's also an additional thing where, basically it's seeing Sam as. Oh, there's no kidding. Did they already drop that news?
There's also the So what's funny with this is Kevin Feige is talking about how sometimes cups are the popcorn buckets are often appear indecent, i.e. the Dune bucket that they showed on one of the shows. And he said that Deadpool was asked to design the bucket and that it was going to be intentionally rude and crude. And I guess that's it, because I've not seen that yet. So
I hope that's it. I hope it's an art. Rich, please bring that back up. Is that? I hope that's not. I really kind of hope that's it. I really do, because that's really fitting. And you know, it definitely puts it on Front Street, and it's very on brand.
Yes.
That's so
Yeah.
romantic. I hope that's it. I really do.
Yeah,
But that's the kind of thing that you can get spoiled about at CinemaCon, because it's been at CinemaCon that we've seen previews of some of the cinema buckets that have happened in the past.
Yeah, there's also like I saw a bunch of other merchandise that I don't think I pulled it up because it was watermarked, and I don't want to do that because I have to deal with the whole crediting thing. But there was a image that I saw. There was more than one thing. There were cups, there were buckets. There's also like a taxi with Deadpool sitting on top of it. So there's like a number of things. But if you pull up the cup of Wolverine, not only was this a cool cup, but it's the first time we see Wolverine with the cowl. Or there's that, and then there's a cup. Yes. So
Yeah.
this is one of the first things we see. And Will, what was the first thing that you mentioned that you were excited to see about this beyond the cowl?
The wide eyes. The wide
Yes.
eyes. I'm not sure how they're done, and I'm sure this is just an artistic rendition that's done on the cup. But seeing the wide eyes, because it looks like there's a recessed eye with some of the black grease paint that we expect, but it's got the wide eyes, which it's like we've all been waiting for this. This is the moment we've all wanted. Let's not question how people see through these opaque white eyes. Let's just enjoy it.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's more than that. I'm hoping that they go, because here's one of the things. The cowl is great. Now, if you go back and you watch Wolverine, not X-Men Origins, but the Wolverine, the Japan, set Wolverine with Silver Samurai. One of the things that I really was worried about when they showed at that alternate scene, when he gets the suit, that the mask was more of a helmet, and it was rigid. With him being with Deadpool, one of the things that, and go ahead and pull up that poster image of the two of them together, since we already have Deadpool, where we can see, first of all, him moving, his face moves when he talks, plus the eyes move as he's talking as well, and it's more animated, even though that may not make a lot of sense. And the MCU has been a little bit more conservative when it comes to things like Spider-Man's eyes, making it a technical thing where it's more focused. What I really hope we're going to get is where Wolverine's eyes with the cowl on is exactly like Deadpool's, and when he gets angry, that middle part of the cowl starts to furl with his brow, because those are the best. Like, if we get a fully articulated mask with Wolverine, that's what I think everyone would want. When I saw the image of Wolverine, did it bother me that he had more of a beard? Kind of. I would have liked it to have been more scruffy, but we've got the beard going on. That's okay. But if we can get an animated cowl where it's more than just the eyes moving like Deadpool's, but we get that furrowed brow, I'll give you all my money. Just it's gone. It's yours. Disney, you can do no wrong at that point. But it's amazing. I'm excited. And thankfully, I didn't get a poster like the one that we just saw, but I was able to get a teaser poster for Deadpool Wolverine that should be coming in the mail from Disney Movie Insiders. So it's the friendship necklace one. It's that teaser. So I at least got that. I'm excited. But definitely excited. I believe they got to see like 10 minutes of the film, maybe more.
No, I think it was 9 minutes.
Okay. So they got to see the tunnel thing, and then there's like a lot of conversations that were had about it. I've heard that there was a tease of like a recreation of Dark World with Thor crying, but it's with Deadpool. Like, I've heard a lot of rumors. What's true and what's not, I don't necessarily know. I'd have to ask one of the guys that I do know a little bit better, but we'll find out later, and maybe we can confirm that for everybody.
I mean, the only thing I heard is that it's an extended scene of kind of what we already saw in the trailer. So basically, there are a few story beats they're able to pick up on, but it's Wade being employed, Wade people throwing him a surprise birthday party, and then the events of him being picked up by the TVA.
Right.
That's what I've heard, and possibly an extended scene of seeing Wolverine full costume.
Now, what would be interesting and then let's just go ahead and take a few minutes here. We're kind of going ahead of schedule, I think, at this point. This might be a shorter show for me.
Oh,
Let's just kind of project some things.
Will's been shutting
I've
up, I
been
guess.
What's that?
I said Will's been shutting up, I guess.
Oh, I have a theory about this movie, and it kind of changes over time. The trailer scene that we have where Deadpool is fighting at the Fox logo and he gets thrown to the ground and Wolverine's there and his claws come out. I think that's toward the end of the film, because I think Deadpool may have employed Wolverine to help him to save the universes, but Deadpool was tasked by the TVA to find these individuals that if they die in their universe, the universes collapse, to trim off some of these timelines so that they can merge with the MCU proper.
Oof, that's
and so
dark.
they've hired a merc to assassinate characters to collapse universes and cause incursions. And he gets Wolverine's help because he's already destroyed his universe and he pulled him from it. And at the end of the movie, or toward the end of the movie, Wolverine finds out that Deadpool has been killing the universes off, and he's responsible for his Jean Grey and his Professor X and his universe collapsing. That's my theory. And then it's a full-on fight, because I wonder what because the TVA is, because I mean the Fox logo is crumbling, the TVA is kind of going against him. I think he went too far. So that's my theory, and it's recorded now. It's on here.
My whole thing that I'm just a little bummed about, I'm kind of bummed that the TVA is involved, only because I thought the Loki story that we got was so well contained that I kind of don't want to hit on those elements again, because I don't want it to be whatever Sean and Ryan's concept that they could do with the TVA rather than the TVA we saw. And obviously, if we encounter anything other than what we saw, it's like, well, we don't really want it to be before then, because it just leaves us with so many unanswered questions, and it's awkward if it's after. So I don't know how it fits in,
man. Just a moment. I'm pulling something up real quick. Let's go ahead and just change gears a little bit. Okay. It was reported recently that just this week, we've heard a lot of things about, the possibility of characters returning and doing different things. Robert Downey Jr. has always said, the story was told, it's done. But as of this week, when asked if he would ever be willing to return to the MCU, he's admitted he would be willing to do it. And basically the inferences was, if someone convinces Kevin Feige to bring him back, he's back. How do you feel about that? That much, huh?
I don't know.
I don't know how I feel about it either. I would have, if you would have caught me right after Endgame, I probably would have said, yes, I want him back, because the wounds were fresh, everything was so raw, and yes, you want those characters to come back. I would have said, yes, bring back Cap, bring back, Iron Man. But now I don't know. I don't think I'd want that. And if we do get Iron Man back or Tony Stark back, I kind of want it to be a different version, like a variant of him.
Well, I think that's really the only way they could do it. The only other thing,
unless it's AI.
yeah, right after Endgame, that's what I was thinking that would be really cool, or I at least thought could happen within 5 years. Because I've got a theory that as long as the MCU is continuing, they played the characters for 10 years, and if the movies continue for an additional 10 years, then you've got now a 20 year window, so you can throw in the nostalgia factor. Oh my God, didn't you guys hear? Cap is back in this one, kind of thing. Or, we're getting Tony Stark in this one. And so I just naturally thought that would happen along the way. But I also kind of wanted it to be, before the whole multiverse was introduced, I wanted it to be like an AI version of him, because I thought that would have been kind of just a good fitting and easy way. I mean, because if Robert Downey Jr.'s just got to sit with a mocap dots on his face and record a bunch of lines and then get out, it's perfect for him. And then we can get whatever we get and it'll be perfect for us.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they do it right, I'm not going to say no. And if they do it, it's not going to be a deal breaker for me to stop watching movies. Listen, I've lived through Love and Thunder. It wasn't my favorite film. I lived through Dark World. I lived through The Incredible Hulk. I'm still a fan. There are films that you may be excited about. There are films you may just not like. Some are for you, some are not for you. Would I prefer him stay out of it? Probably, unless they do it some way where it doesn't detract, which is funny because yesterday we were talking about this very concept with Wolverine, because you were talking about, Logan was such a good ending for Wolverine.
It really was, man. It was a good full circle story. So that's why, I don't obviously want it to be, I want it to be a version of the character we've seen, but,
Right.
or I want it to be a version of the character. It doesn't have to be one we've seen. It doesn't have to be the one that's full Fox continuity. But like, can we also just take a moment to appreciate the fact that I think one of the movies that Kevin Feige got his start in the business on was the original X-Men movies, and now he's coming full circle, and he's actually in his role at Marvel getting to work with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine again. Well, so that is just that in itself is a little bit of poetry I appreciate.
Well, that was the thing. Like, maybe for a lot of people, they don't know how Kevin Feige even kind of got to the throne of the Marvel Studios, executive board and stuff. Kevin Feige was working with Avi Arad. Avi Arad and Kevin Feige were part of Marvel Studios, but Marvel Studios, not what we know of it now. They were mainly set to be like continuity and like consultants on these films. So Kevin Feige's been a part of the Spider-Man films. He's been a part of, the X-Men films. I believe he was also part of Blade. I believe. So he's been down the road. And here's the thing. Their job was to go in and to see the script and to see the production. And they're like, hey, it would be really good if you guys did this. This is more like what in line with what the character would do, or this is more in line with the story. And unfortunately, and mainly, let me also say this: Marvel Studios was created to sell toys.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, Ike Perlmutter with Toy Biz bought Marvel when Marvel was going bankrupt. And so part of the job of Marvel Studios was to make these movies marketable so that the toys would sell. And they got tired of going and not being listened to, being ignored. I mean, let's face it, the X-Men movies were a great gateway into us getting better films.
Mm-hmm.
But Bryan Singer, don't like the guy, was like a kid in a toy box that just dumped the toys out, picked them up, didn't really care what their backgrounds were, and just kind of did things to them. I will never forgive him for a lot of things, but especially for how he depicted Rogue in the X-Men series. Like, that was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And then of course we know you can't really blame Bryan Singer for X-Men Last Stand, because he was too busy messing up Superman with Superman Returns at the time, which tells you, like, toys in it, like, come on, just no. And so yeah, he messed a lot of stuff up, and they were good in their right. X2 was fantastic. I loved X2, but none of it really worked. Like, I'm sorry, when Kurt Wagner and Mystique are in the same room, and I'm sitting in the comics knowing like they're related, and it's like, come on. And like, he's just like, it just bothered me. And so I'm glad that Marvel Studios now has a chance to do these films on their own.
Now that you mention it, you would think at one point they'll go, hey, we're both blue, kind of thing.
Yeah, but listen, also Mystique is basically is Rogue's mother, so she's not blue.
Oh, okay.
So mother, or was she the father? I think she might have been the father. Weird stuff. So you've got all of these movies happening, Marvel Studios is just tired. And that's when they start leveraging all of the remaining characters that aren't owned by Fox and Sony to then do the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it paid off. And so Kevin Feige's been around the bend. He's been a part of all of these things. And so to see him now with these characters, I'm excited for it. But at the same time, it's like he's done some stuff in phases 4 and 5 where he has been allowing, I think, more control by the writers and the directors. There was oversight. There was a creative committee back in phases 1 through 3 that went a little bit too far. But at the same time, the stories could have been helped by a little bit of oversight and continuity within themselves. And I think that's where they're trying to go. And that's why we have one Marvel cinematic movie this year. But then I think we have like 3 next year.
Well, there was a lot of talk about 2025. Like almost everything.
Valentine's Day is Brave New World.
Mm-hmm.
You've got was it July is Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was the last one? Was it Armor Wars?
I don't know, man.
Because I saw that on the slate. It looked like it was relatively soon. So we've got the potential for good, but then at the same time, we could get that fatigue of just way too many movies in a year. But we'll see.
It seems crazy to me to think that, I mean, aside from the fact that maybe some production work has been going on, and I think realistically speaking, they probably need about 2 months for principal photography on a movie.
Yeah.
But it still just seems crazy to me that Fantastic Four could be ready by summer of next year.
And
which is stupid because it's not even summer of this year. But it just with how big these movies are, I can't even fathom how they get them done in that amount of time.
And they're filming it in a couple months. So I'm guessing like 2. That's the longest it can go from now without it
Thunderbolts.
Really
we forgot about Thunderbolts.
Oh, maybe Thunderbolts was the other one. Yeah. So then you've got Fantastic Four being filmed, and it's gonna be filmed completely in IMAX, which honestly, that doesn't give me a whole lot of faith. IMAX is great, but tell me what aspect ratio it's going to be in doesn't really tell me what the content of the film is. Mm-hmm. Let's just hope for good content. And again, female Silver Surfer, it's Shia LaBeouf, which is Norrin Radd's love interest. So this is and the Deadline article said it's a version of it. So everybody who's having an issue because it's going to be a female Silver Surfer, just go read a comic book. And so there's that out there and all of these things. So hopefully everything's going to be okay. I really wish we would have gotten some Blade news because I feel like that's dead in the water at this point. But yeah, I can't really think of anything else to say about it.
Yeah. I mean, we recently got that tease. You remember last week where Florence Pugh was giving us behind the scenes, but
right,
like, have they finished? Are they in active principal photography right now on Thunderbolts?
I believe so.
Okay, that would make sense. Get us a little hyped right now, especially right before the CinemaCon stuff, because they knew that would get coverage.
Yeah, and it would give a conversation because everyone wants to know what the asterisk is. Like that is the cheapest bait and switch, or
it is. Hook. But also at the same time, the asterisk could just be, oh, surprise, it's Dark Avengers.
Oh yeah, like it's not a working title in the movie. It's a working title with Valentine, Francesca, whatever. So, let's move on. And this is the thing I want to talk about. I talked about it last night. I feel like I've compelled you to do. You're a busy man.
Mm-hmm.
Has my compelling you to watch X-Men 97 cause action yet? Have you gotten there yet?
Well, one thing I would say, Tony, is that
so the answer is no.
The best way to answer the question is to point out that the audio version of my own podcast hasn't even been published yet. So no, I haven't, because I literally, since we were done last night, which would have been at like 8:30 my time, I went from there to spend 30 minutes with my family before I came in here, and then had to finish an editing project. Went to bed around 2, got up, went into my work day, did that, and fell asleep on the couch for like 30 minutes before doing this, and here I am. So no, I've had absolutely no window of opportunity to get into it yet. Oh, but today is today new episode day as well?
No.
Okay.
That's every Wednesday.
Okay.
I'm telling you, Marvel dropped the ball when it comes to the release date for this this show. It should have been released on Saturday mornings. I'm just saying, like, you've got, and maybe listen, anybody who's watching this, whether it's live, you're listening on the podcast, or you're watching this later on recording, please tweet, message, do whatever, comment to Marvel. They need to get their animated shows on a Saturday morning release. First of all, a lot of adults would thank you for it that are Marvel fans, because they don't have to stay up late, on a work day. But at the same time, it gives that nostalgia for the Saturday morning cartoons. But I will say this: X-Men 97 is by far one of the best Disney Plus Marvel shows that we've gotten, if not the best.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because, as Marvel Studios does, it knows how to play homage to original stories, original content. Yes. Mm-hmm. By allowing the story to continue and not changing things to the extent. And what Marvel Studios has added to X-Men 97 that Fox could not have done with the X-Men animated series back in the 90s is they have allowed, I hate to say it this way because it's a cartoon, it's a fictional show, but it's almost like real world consequences for things that happen. It's not just there's a bad guy, let's get the bad guy. We're going to look like the bad guys because the world hates us because we're mutants, which was a lot of what the show was. The X-Men are doing good. The world still hates them. They're fighting, the bigotry against mutants because people are threatened by the evolution of, mutants into the world. But they never went beyond that too much. There was drama and there was all the issues within, and there was the comic book stories. But what this show has done is it's made it more consequential. Like I'll just say this there, and this has been out there. It's not even a big drop, but Magneto was arrested and is taken to the United Nations and held trial, and the UN Council is under attack by these anti-mutant terrorists. And they're after not just Magneto, they're after the UN government because they're giving him a trial when everyone thinks that he should just be executed because of what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is this dialogue between Magneto saying, even when you do the right thing, there's the consequence. Now, I'm not even saying it right because I'm not going to memorize the phrase. I'll have to go back and watch it again, which I probably will do about 5 or 6 times at this point, because this last episode got me in the feels, and now I want to go back and relive all of it. But there are these conversations that are happening that make more sense in this day and time than just saying, "Oh, mutants are bad. We feel threatened." There's a real thing, and then even the relationships are more, I think, a little bit more complicated in this one. So yes, it's definitely made for adults. I will tell you though, up until this last episode 5. My son has been watching it and he's been into it. So it can relate across age groups, but even if you're not a fan of the animated series from back in the 90s, like it wasn't your thing, if you even remotely like any of the Disney Plus shows that we've gotten so far, I would say you need to watch this. So
really your only complaint is you just wish that they would release them, let's just say basically same time, but Saturday, because that way you could wake up and it could be your Saturday morning.
You
could always wait and you could always skip watching it and wait till Saturday. And then it's like, oh, it's on in the morning.
No.
Okay.
No. If it's gonna release on Wednesday, I'm watching it Wednesday. What's the purpose? What's the purpose?
I don't know, Tony. I don't
know.
But
I will say,
as a guy,
could you imagine? Imagine this marketing. You have adults waking up on Saturday morning in their slippers, running downstairs, getting a bowl of cereal, sitting in front of their television or their computer or their phone or their tablet. Wow, it's a little bit different nowadays. But then they're in front of whatever screen that they're on, or their Oculus, or their overly expensive Apple Vision Pros, and they're watching X-Men 97, and it brings back that nostalgia of being that excited kid watching Saturday morning cartoons again.
Amen, brother. Amen.
I'm just saying.
Listen, I just realized that
we need the little things.
I just realized that new Deadpool movie is going to create a dilemma for me, because we're going to have to find a babysitter. Usually a Marvel movie comes out and I'm like, 90% for a 9-year-old, 90% of this can fly just fine. There might be some things to answer or question, but we know we're generally in safe hands, and that just cannot happen with a Deadpool movie. Although one thing I am really aggravated about, because I swear I had purchased it, but you remember there was a certain point, I'm not sure on what service it was, where Once Upon a Deadpool was offered and you could watch it. And I swear I bought it through some digital source, but it was like basically it was a PG-3 version, a PG-13 version of Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
And
didn't he kidnap Freddie Savage in it?
Yes, exactly. And he was telling him the story as though it were The Princess Bride. Are in the exact same, and they get into it about Nickelback. Mm-hmm. It was a fun time, and I'm aggravated because I swear I owned that, and I can't find it on any digital service now.
Yeah, that's the problem with digital. Like, PSA, everybody, if you buy digital, don't expect it ever to stay there permanently.
Yeah, believe it or not, the service is licensing the content, and they could lose the license.
Could you imagine all the people who were like, "Oh, you know what? I'm going for ultraviolet. I'm not buying any more DVDs or Blu-rays. Everything's going to be ultraviolet digital copies." And then that thing went under, and you had like a month or two to try to convert some of your movies over to like Movies Anywhere or whatever, which is funny because I have a lot of my digital movies on Movies Anywhere, and I barely ever access that anymore.
But you don't need to. That's the beauty of it.
Apple, and you can link it to everything else, and you can still have them there. But it's one of those things where you're just like, why pay for it? I remember I got, what was it? One of the seasons of Big Bang Theory. I'm a big Bang Theory fan. And it was the one time I broke down and I accepted the ultraviolet digital copy. I remember before ultraviolet went out of business, I went to go back and watch, and they said, "Oh, we transitioned it out of our catalog." And this is before people were complaining about like the Sony PlayStation Store doing it and everybody else doing it. People didn't understand, like, especially like there's a movie. I don't even remember what it's about. It's about some person singing and they're dying of cancer, I think. And it was on Disney Plus. It never went to Blu-ray or DVD or anything like that. It was circulating through TikTok, and that's how I went down the rabbit hole of unfortunately watching Jupiter Ascending with Mila Kunis and Channing Tatum again, and still regretting it. Which is also the reason why I also watched Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, because of course TikTok does that, and that again, the Rookie and the Good Doctor and all that kind of stuff popping up.
Yeah, man. Let me tell you something. The streaming services create all kinds of problems. All right, or the portable media entertainment of social media video that we've got, and it's true, because it was Daddy Cop ended up sending my wife on a weeks-long binge of The Rookie, because I'm like, look at this funny bit. It's really funny. It happens here and then it happens there, and then she's just like, well, why don't we just watch the first episode of the show? And boom, there you go. Plus, social media introduces people to me to like you, Tony, and also Mr. Snidbits, which, by the way, I've now cursed myself because I agreed to be. This part isn't the curse, but I agreed to be on The Real Study with him again.
Okay.
And he's like, what movies do you want to do? Just something streamy that you have access to. And I'm like, I've never seen Morbius. And by then, I didn't see, and I also, of course, didn't see Madam Web. And so I think those are going to be the 2 movies we're going to do. So I don't know if I did this so I have a purpose to do it. I'm seriously going to sit there with my iPad for both of these and just write whatever gags are coming into my mind as I go, because I'm sure I'm just going to shred them. But I've cursed myself now, so I will be seeing them. Is Madam Web on streaming now? I'm sure it is.
You have to rent it, I believe. I haven't looked lately.
Okay.
But I know Morbius is on Disney Plus now, so you're at least safe there. That's when you know Disney's in shambles, because Morbius is on their platform. It should be more like, instead of Jared Leto, it should be more like Jared Let Go, like let go of Jared Leto. But yeah, enjoy. I agree with Rich. Enjoy, have fun with that. I watched Morbius when I had COVID. There you go. It's Morbid time. Yeah,
that tells the full story right there, people.
There's a movie that immediately reminded me of Morbius. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head right now, but I was saying, like, if you watch this movie with bats, that's Morbius. And I will figure out what it is and I will tweet it out or whatever. But I mean, you basically have this guy who's sick, who gets powers. His friend wants those powers, or he wants to have it too. And so it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah. And it's one of the reasons why, like Christopher Eccleston, I think it's Eccleston or Eccles. I think it's Eccleston for the Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had a hard time going to watch Doctor Who with him because of watching G.I. Joe.
Oh, I haven't seen G.I. Joe, so
yeah, he was in the first G.I. Joe with Jason Gordon-Levitt, and Channing Tatum. That tells you a lot about it. And so I had a hard time. And then, of course, he was in Gone in 60 Seconds with Nicolas Cage. And so seeing him as the Doctor, it took a little bit. But once I got to the end of the series, I was disappointed that he was already being replaced by David Tennant so early on. Mm-hmm. But then, of course, Miranda Ragland on TikTok, we were talking on a live, I think it was, and she explained to me that there was a bunch of politics, and someone recently had asked him, I think it was like last year, if he'd ever come back to Doctor Who. And he's done audio stuff, but he said if he'd ever come back to the production, like all of the people, all the producers would have to be fired.
Yeah, basically everybody in charge.
Yeah. And they asked him what companion he'd want to have, and he said the only companion he wants is Rose Tyler. So, he loves Doctor Who, he just hated everybody involved. And so, yeah, it's been interesting. It's kind of been interesting, getting into it. But that's the thing for me for Matt Smith now, because he's in Morbius.
Well, he was also in, was it Terminator Genesis? Is that the name of it? It was some silly tech name.
Wait a second.
He was in that one.
Matt Smith was into... Are you serious?
He was in a Terminator movie, but it was it was much later in the Terminator movies. I know, I recall that I watched it. I think it was
it was a T-5000.
Yeah, and it was, well, spoilers, well, for a movie that however old it is. How old is it? Anyway,
2015.
But yeah, it was so basically he was a bad guy in that too. But yeah, that movie was, it's almost like that wasn't...
Everybody who was on the production team of that was a bad guy at some point.
Really?
Because they made the movie. Like,
oh, okay. No. I disagree. I mean, it was an interesting take because it was almost like it was an other worlds version or a multiverse version, because this was a timeline where, basically Eddie Furlong age, John Connor, just T-800 just comes walking out of the ocean and shoots a kid on the beach and then goes back into the water or something, ever to, fade off. And then
so it was like Fate?
It was like a different timeline. So it was a really cool take. I enjoyed it.
I think you got the two movies mixed up.
Terminator Genesis?
Genesis was the one where they go back in time. Kyle Reese goes back, and there's already a Terminator there helping.
Yeah, exactly.
Sarah
That was the
Connor.
Terminator. The Terminator. There was he went and there was no John Connor because that John
No, he
Connor
went
is
all the way
dead.
back to Sarah Connor. But I'm sorry, he went all the way back to Sarah Connor before she had John Connor.
Oh, okay.
And then
What was the one I'm thinking of then?
Dark Fate was the one where the Terminator took him out on the beach.
Okay, that's what it was.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Wow, so I have seen more than I realize.
Yes. No, just remember, Terminator Genesis, and I'm not doing
It
spoiler
shouldn't be
warning
this
for
damn
anybody on this film.
confusing is the problem.
I'm just gonna say this: Terminator Genesis is not something that I would say spoiler alert for, because you're not gonna want to watch it. That's the one where it is an Elseworlds, kind of like another multiverse, where John Connor ended up being a Terminator as well.
Oh, okay.
It's terrible. It's
terrible. It's so convoluted, man. It's amazing. Listen, that there's some
Terminator Genesis. Huh? Terminator Genesis, I believe, ended Jai Courtney's like mainstream career. Like, he was going somewhere, and I think he kind of stopped going somewhere after that movie.
Gotcha.
The same way that what's his name? You ever see John Carter?
Oh yeah, I saw John Carter. One of the few people, I think. Not in the theater though. God no, I watched it on home video.
The guy who played John Carter in the film, Tyler Kitsch, he had bad movie after bad movie after bad movie, and I feel like that was his dark fate, because he did Battleship, he was an X-Men Origins Wolverine as Gambit, and then he did John Carter, and then you kind of just never heard about him after that.
No, that's what happens, man.
Yeah,
that's the way the business rolls.
Yeah, it does.
Now I got to go figure out how I'm so confused about all the damn Terminator movies.
Listen, those who know about them, they're confused. I was on the Real Study during their Terminator saga. Like, I was on a couple episodes. Mm-hmm. When they got to Genesis and Dark Fate, I bowed out. I was like, I'm done.
I can't do it again, man. I can't do it again.
I will talk about Terminator 3 before I will ever talk about those movies. I hate Terminator 3. But we're getting really off topic. We're already at an hour. So okay. let's go ahead and wrap this up before we get in more trouble. So please, thank you guys that are watching, and for those of you who are listening after the fact. This was more of an unhinged episode, but be sure we will be back in 2 weeks, the 26th of April, but it'll be a little bit different. I already know what we're going to be doing there. Sometimes this show is random. Sometimes this show is very well planned. I will actually be in Chicago with Paperweight Entertainment, or Derek, and with Mickey, or Cell Phone Wallet Keys. And we're planning on trying to do this show live there with Will, where he's at. And if we can't do it,
like the world's worst Zoom.
What Will doesn't realize is, if we can't do it, Will's doing the whole show by himself. So,
that's not a problem. I mean, seriously, I just won't shut up. It'll be
it'll
be Netheads Part 2.
Yes, just see if you can bring in your guy from.
That would be hilarious if the one time I'm hosting Fandoms alone, it's like in Trent Hunt's.
There's Trent, yep. So,
brilliant.
But yes, thank you all for being with us. You can check us out in 2 weeks. We'll be at Chicago. Hopefully it'll work out, or else will be doing a one-man show. Are you going to be on Real Study before the next show?
I don't know. No, it's going to be in May.
Okay. So you have some time not to watch Morbius. So you're good to go.
Because you bet your bottom dollar I will only be watching it like right down to the wire.
So yeah, I would recommend it. But then you may enjoy it. Just don't think of it as a comic book film or anything Spider-Man related, and you'll be pleasantly surprised that it's only really bad. It's not awfully bad, but I digress. So just remember, we're going to do the rundown real quick. Please remember, you want to reach out to our Checkout Nerd Initiative. We've got lots of movies and reviews. If you want to be a part of our newsletter and know what's going on, use that link or that little QR code right there. You can scan that and find out more about what's going on. Then you're going to want to check out on Tuesday's Turn a Page, as the Nerd Initiative Bullpen talks about different comics and different stories, and sometimes does some amazing interviews with some amazing comic book creators. And that's run by our comics editor in chief, Ken. And so you can also on Wednesdays check out New Comic Book Day, see what's being reviewed, see what's going on. If you're kind of on the fence about whether you want to read a comic or not, check out the reviews. They may just kind of steer you in the right direction about what to listen to or what to read and what not to read. And then also, if you're a big wrestling fan, or even if you're thinking about becoming a wrestling fan, make sure you check out Rich and Ken as a delve into that week's wrestling events. And if you want to go back and watch this last episode with the WrestleMania, the 2-hour episode, which I was nervous. We don't like overlapping things with Nerd Initiative, and me being on Netheads, I was literally actively watching the wrestling show, hoping that it was going to end before we started Netheads because I was going to feel guilty. Thankfully it did. And so they have a full 2 hours talking about WrestleMania and just delving into all of that. And of course, talking about all the wrestling. And you can catch them every Thursday. And then of course, you've got us here at Fandoms. You can catch us every other Friday. So we'll be back April 26th. And and then please check out our merch. See the amazing stuff that we've got there. Hats like this, lots of different cups, stickers, shirts, pants, you name it. We may have it. If we don't have it, just tell us about it and we'll make it work out. Things for like for the Nerd Initiative wrestling team, the Turn of Page team, Fandoms, some of the stuff we have to get updated. Will, we got to get you on a Fandoms logo.
I've been thinking that as the de facto co-host now for a little bit here on Fandoms, I've been thinking that opening animation needs a little more bald-headed glasses guy.
Yeah, like that right there.
No, not like that. No, that's.
I love that image. That's
12 years ago.
Yeah, I might use that for the Fandoms logo.
Oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah, we'll see. No, we'll have to get you you have to go get a photo shoot. We can get you some profile pictures and add you to some stuff.
Glamour shots still exist?
No, listen, I'm telling you right now, I was going through Smodcast's website and I love what Kevin Smith does with Fat Man, where it's like I was asking you, like, is that all CG? Because I want to get like some images and maybe we start doing some of that stuff. Not exactly, but like have us on the cover, whatever. It might scare people away. They can put it on their thing and pest control. But regardless, with that said, I don't think there's anything else I need to kind of say. Again, thank you guys. If you're watching this and you would like to be able to hear this, which I doubt it, you would like to be able to hear this, you can go and check us out on podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, just look up the Fandom Podcast or look up Nerd Initiative, as well as Turn a Page is also on audio as well. And then with that said, if you are a fan of something and you're looking for a place and you're just not sure, or you feel like you're just in this place where people are negative and toxic and they're gatekeeping, you're not here. And we'd love to be that source for you. We'd love to be that place for you. Nerd Initiative is all about, creating without fear, listening without fear, enjoying without fear. So please, if you've not already, make sure you like and subscribe, turn on notifications for all of the Nerd Initiative content that we make. We'd love to be that home for you. And again, whatever fan you are, wherever you've come from, whoever you are, what you look like, where your origin is, whatever it is, if you're a fan of something and you love it, we want to be a part of that journey with you. So thank you for watching. Have a good night.